to adultery. If you divorce your wife, and if you marry a wife or anything else from adultery, you're committing adultery. If you're married to a divorced woman, you're committing adultery. And if a woman divorces her husband and marries another man, she's committing adultery. This word adultery is very heavy and loaded for me, but I'm not saying this of my own authority or authorship. I am quoting the words of Jesus Christ. My beloved, let's go back wholeheartedly to the teachings of Jesus Christ, to think very well before getting into a relationship that marriage is a marriage for all of life, for life. Go back to the first passage that I spoke to you, that it may fortify you or protect you from the first lecture. Let God choose for you. And how do you know that God chose for you? I will stop here, and I thank you very much for your long suffering and your audience to listen to this explicit, clear words. Thank you very much. الكلام البلدي الحلو بتاعنا.
كما حقا قام رئيس السلام. هللويا هللويا الرب قام. مريم قد ذهبت فجر الأحد بأطياب وحنوط للجسد. ويسوع قام حقا وانتصر. وإذا الملك دحر جاء الحجر. أما مريم فكانت خارجا ببكاء ترى قبرا فارغا. نظرت يسوع كشخص غريب ولا تدري أنه شخص الحبيب. فقالت وهي تبكي يا سيدي أين ربي وحبيبي أجد. فقال لها يا مريم أبشري واذهبي لإخوتي وأخبري. مريم ما ضاعت لرسله الكرام بنداها بشرت يسوع ويسوع نفسه جاء وسطهم ولهم قد قال سلام لكم. أراهم يديه أيضا جنبه ففرحوا حين رأوا شخصه. هللويا قد تحقق الخبر. هللويا قام حقا وانتصر. هللويا لمخلص البشر. هللويا شوكة الموت كسر. هللويا قام رئيس السلام. هللويا هللويا الرب قام.
أنا عارف الموضوعات دي لو قعدنا نجاوب مش هندي فرصة لنيافة الأنبا رفائيل يجي النهارده يعني. في قاعدة عامة بس يا ولادي عشان تبقى الصورة واضحة. مش كل اللي هقوله هيعجب الكل. أي واحد إرادته تتعارض مع اللي أنا قلته هيبقى زعلان. بس عايز أقول لك اللي أنا قلته ليست إرادتي ولكن إرادة المسيح. أنا بقول لك المسيح قال إيه مش أنا بقول إيه. في بعض أسئلة جات الحقيقة أنا بشكرهم عليها متشابهة في نفس الموضوع. السؤال الأولاني What is the difference between divorce and annulment؟ إيه الفرق بين الطلاق والبطلان؟ نفس المعنى جاي سؤال. سيدنا نيافتك لم تذكر موضوع البطلان في الكنيسة ونحن نرى كثير جدا من حالات البطلان في الكنيسة ونجد أن الطرفين يتزوجون في الكنيسة. إيه الفرق بينه وبين الطلاق؟ حاضر. ورقة ثالثة في نفس المعنى ما هي الشروط للبطلان. بص حبايبي نخش بتفاصيل عشان برضو ما
just
تبقوش
so you're not
مشوشين.
confused. The word annulment is for reasons that preceded the marriage, and divorce are for reasons that were after or followed the marriage. One more, an annulment is for reasons that existed before the marriage. Divorce is because they got married and they settled down and there was nothing before the marriage, so now we're looking for reasons after marriage, adultery and whatever that qualifies, or change of faith, religious identity, because we consider that type of religious death. What are the reasons that annul a marriage? Very simply, who's going to get married? A man, fully capable, mentally of good faculties, emotionally healthy, who married someone who's of the same metrics of health. So now let's see. This exists in Upper Egypt and reoccurs a lot. One woman who is forced to be married, that she was pressured to get married. Maybe they're afraid that they heard that she's involved with someone, or want to marry someone who's of a lesser social class, or someone who's younger than her, or for whatever maybes you could align against her, that she wants to get married to someone outside of the family, and they want to keep the soil, meaning the land, within the family, but she doesn't want them. She can't stand him, so she was forced. This is annulment. Where's her will? She doesn't want this. And I blame a lot of the priests who say, "Oh, we have nothing to do. We will not clash with the people." No, what do you mean? You conducted an annulment. And then you could have two who would agree. This is my advice to the priests who work in the councils, that a good expert or a good lawyer. This is the two of you agree that I'm sure I knew that my wife was coerced and pressured. She doesn't want me in the first place. Not only that, because they can't stand each other, that they will bring her mother and say that I pushed her. What do you think? Would I accept this? Then I would be just out of my mind. What does it mean? Look, this is not for you. This is for people, my peers, my colleagues. If she was forced, that there are reasons. There are reasons that point out to the forcing someone who's 20 years older than, of course she will refuse it. Someone who's not educated, she's educated, but just because he's cousin. Someone who has a deformity. She had a relationship with someone else because he was poor. Yeah, she's going to refuse the other guy. Yeah, there are reasons. But has to have consequences from the very first minute. I'll tell you what I used to do. I say I want the video of the church ceremony and the reception. Believe me, I used to do this. They say, no, we don't have it. Then, okay, then don't come back. A girl who's smiling ear to ear, the other one, you'd find her sitting and she would try to grab her hand and she would pull her hand back. The video shows it, doesn't lie. In the reception, the girl is jumping in joy. What force? That's one thing. The second thing is actually after marriage. A woman does not give her body except for who she loves. So he complains that she withholds herself and this and that. That means he was forced. A day, yes, and 5, no. She doesn't want to have children from him. That's because she was forced. So you have to look for these hints and clues and factors of being forced, and these factors of being forced is one of the reasons of annulment. the lack of sexual intimacy, and I'll be very clear. When I say the inability to sexual intimacy, we call it withholding. That those who handle the clerical council could be in the case of the man or the woman. It's usually meant, there's a concept or it's perceived that a man is incapable. It could be for physical reasons or not unphysical reasons. We call it a psychological incompetency. It's not a psychological disorder, but psychological block. The psychological block is known without going into so many medical details. If you want a course on that, I'll give you a class. She could be upset, or her reproductive organs are not grown yet, that she's incapable, or she experiences pain, or she can't conduct sexual intimacy. And these are emotional matters before marriage. There was an abortion, or even to the moment that they left the reception hall, that there is just an inability to perform intimacy, or she is very dominant and very strong, so she's always investigating him. So after marriage, that causes a psychological incompetency problem, non-anatomical problems. It could be the reason for, or something in her childhood, what she heard, what happened to her, what did they scare her about sex about. This could all lead to that she cannot, that she's in pain and she cannot have sexual intimacy. So here we talk about anatomical or psychological factors that we call incompetence. One is forcing, or two is a lack of sexual intimacy, the inability of sexual intimacy. Number three, the psychological disorder that predates the marriage. In the old days, they used to call it insanity or craziness. Or just because he was depressed and took a couple of pills doesn't mean that he's psychologically sick. And when it comes to this, the wife could not discover it except after some time. But a lot of the psychological disorders could have roots in the teenage years, and the doctor can say this. So these are the psychological diseases that predate marriage. We took this, one of the things we said, confirmed and continuous addiction before marriage. If there was a pattern of confirmed and continuous pattern of addiction before marriage. Not someone who told me two pills of I don't know why, or just let's just party a little bit and they just slipped him something, then that's addiction. No, that's not addiction. That there's a continuity. One of its disastrous reasons for annulment. Deception in essential matters. In Egypt, they say if she said she's a virgin, she has to be a virgin, and he discovered that that wasn't the case. Annulment, because it's deception. Deception in age. She faked an ID, claimed that she was a different age, and she's much older than the age she claimed. Or he faked his academic degree, and he just gave himself a higher degree. Or here in America, when he's going to marry to Egypt, he got a nice big diploma, and they don't know what's written in it. So it's deception in an essential matter. This is the matter. These are the factors that I could summarize to you that lead to an annulment of marriage, that are preceding the marriage. Is it permitted for both? If the church considers this, excuse me, there's something I forgot. If the marriage is illegal, what do you mean the marriage is illegal? That there are hindrances or obstacles to this marriage. And we have a table, we tabulate who cannot marry. And I always explain to the priests or the people who work in this field in a small diagram how to calculate that he can or cannot marry her, a certain diagram. Just give. I'll not tell you how the table works. You're not going to make decision. But anyway, the preventative or the obstructing factors. Does annulment grants both the permit? Suppose one of them, he was not allowed to get married because he was divorced, and we discovered this after he got married. He came from America and he has a piece of paper from Abuna. He did not get engaged and married before. He came and lived in New York 6-7 months a year, although he was married in Egypt. And so he concealed his previous marriage when he was here, but he has. That's why we have two reports: a report of before, when he was before migration, and another report after migrating. And if he lives in multiple states, he needs a letter from each state he lived in, or someone deceived in a different way, and this happened. Someone took a permit from the church and he was allowed to marry, and went and got married and differed and had a fight and divorced. But he still kept in his pocket the old paper. So he went to a nice, simple village priest, and he gave him the old permit that was still valid, and he got married again. Can I give him a third permit? Oh, never. So not every annulment that I give the permit. So every time we do this, and I think the priests are more careful, that they place an expiry date to how valid is using this permit. It's for a year, for just like your food, right? Can you eat? It's the same idea. It's expired. The two could be given a permit and could be given a conditional permit, and neither of them could be given a permit, meaning one got married and married deceptively. I will not let him marry again. You cannot marry. What does it mean, conditional? Someone who is sexually incompetent, so why get married? A widow who has kids and just wants a support for her and to provide for her kids. She just wants a man in the house. So we say in this conditional permit that she writes an affidavit that she knows the details of this guy and that she still wants to marry him. So she cannot come back and say, well, I discovered that he was this way. So this is called a conditional permit. Or someone who has dangerous diseases, and when the first wife discovered sure annulment, so I have to put in the permit the condition or the clause that the health condition of this person should be known to the next one. Why do you say, my daughter, he just takes 2 pills because he's diabetic and that's it? No, I have to go into details. How long has he been diabetic? Since he was a kid? When did he discover he's diabetic? Does she know that from diabetes from early age, what kind of physical consequences it has on the eyes, on the kidneys, on whatever part of your body? You have to know. This is what I need, a conditional permit with details. I took a little bit more time in this, but it's be clear that annulments are for reasons prior to marriage, and the permit could or could not be permit for one of them or both of them or none of them, but conditional. Babula, can you answer yesterday's question already? Of course she says it politely. My friend is separated from her husband because he does not know his role as a husband and he's irresponsible for his family. But she saw the red flags from the beginning and she decided to marry. She deserves it. She deserves it. She deserves it. Did you hear it? I don't want it to appear on the TV too clearly, so someone who knows the problems and knows what's going to happen. And just as her friend wrote, she saw the red flags. They warned her. She saw his character that cannot be tolerated, and she saw that he's not responsible, and saw that she attached to him emotionally on account of the mind. She attached to him emotionally on account of her mind. Divorce me, church. No divorce except for adultery. Which says I can't live with him. It's up to you. I do not force you to live with him. But the fact that I tell you that I don't force you to live with him, neither you or him will force me for you to marry. Is it clear? Just because the church agrees that you separate from living together, meaning that the church is obligated to give you a permit of marriage, just so we know. Because among the questions, someone is saying, Babola, in the show, you say you're very kind to the woman and you tell him leave him right away. Sure, yes, I'll tell her leave him right away if there is danger in her life. He broke her arm. She lost an eye. You know, because it's your cross, and you carry her until what? We carry her in a casket. Whose conscience allows this? Leave him right away. But when you come to talk about a permit, I have to look for the reasons that the Lord said, or the annulling factors, premarital annulling factors. So just because I agree that you're not living with him doesn't mean that I agree to get married. And if I tell you to continue living with him, I'll be unfair, I'll be cruel, I'll be do not feel for others that I would not protect. And we meet so many cases like this, and I meet them and I see everything they need because there's a danger in their lives. Excuse me, when one comes to me, a female, and her daughter's 14, 15 years old, and she discovered that the husband is sexually harassing his daughter. It was like, well, be careful, my daughter, protect your daughter and keep your eye on her. Really? Really? Is it the father who molests his daughter at this age? Where will this girl be in a few years? She'll be with anyone in the street. I have to care for this 13, 14, 15-year-old girl, and I have to help them to find a place to live. And I must help them to find a job and to have an honorable, dignified life. If she wants to divorce, I'll tell her, divorce. But if I can advise her not to get married again because she has a few kids. There'd be a difficulty for someone. If that husband did what he did to his daughter, sometimes we have to tell them to do this because there's a financial component to provide for them. But if the church cares, I'll tell them, never stay. I just hope that this is understanding that every case to us has a different reply, that no two cases are the same based on the severity of each case. They say that in the societies that we live, some guys have relationships with American girls. After that relationship, the marriage becomes successful. Look, Habibi, I don't want to generalize that the foreigners are bad or this and that. And I must say, I'm not talking about Americans, we're just talking about foreigners, people of different nationalities. They have a lot of good things that they stand out, even from us. But I have a problem with a few things. The first thing is the culture of marriage. What is marriage to them? Is it for life? Is it something of unity? Or if we just, get upset at each other, everyone goes their separate way. This is a problem. The second matter is how and where are you going to raise your kids. I want to tell you, there's a case I can't forget in a European country. This woman was an example in sacrifice and giving who's not Coptic, but when her two daughters became teenagers, they differed in how to raise the kids. They have to deal life, no matter what type. This is a cultural norm of a society, and a wonderful woman, and she was great, but they separated each other because of their approach to raising the kids. So I have to look at this. Another point, will she accept to enter the church, but did she like the church? Did she like our long liturgy? Did she like the Copts? The nosy Copts who get into people's lives? This bunch of women? Was she going to like that? Or did she like us because we are nice and simple and spontaneous people? Depends on how we're perceived. So it has to be studied from so many angles. Don't marry with your eyes. Let me say it again. And I tell the woman, do not marry with your ears. Do you understand? To the men, I tell the boy, they're telling me, wrap up, you took too much. This is, wrap it up. It's been a few days. Okay. I tell the man, do not get married with your eyes. Don't worry about the colors. And I tell her, do not marry with your ears. Let him not fool you in a couple of days. Because he'll tell you something that an Egyptian cannot say. Think with your mind. Why doesn't the church say in the marriage of those who took marriage permit as the virgin, basically? We write this in the paper, but we don't write the Blessed Virgin in the paper, in the civil legal paperwork. No, because it shows that they're married before and there's a court order. But in the church, they're married as a virgin. I thank you very much. I took a lot of your time. I gave you a headache. I may see you again. So I may see you again.
ادعوا لنا. هذا الجبل من الأسئلة يعني أتمنى أجاوب كله بس الأوامر العليا كفاية كده.
But the higher commands are saying enough of the word. Let's pray.
أخيرا يا رب اختم علينا بالبركة واسمعنا احنا مدعو قائلين أبانا الذي في السماوات. الحقيقة أنا عمال أطول عشان مش شايف أنبا رفائيل لسه جه يعني، إنما جه. طب مش تقولي بقى تعملي لي كده مثلا من بعيد فافهم إنه عندكم بريك وتيجوا لسيدنا في مواعيده. اتفضلوا.
بنشكر نيافتك يا سيدنا. كويك اناونسمنت اللي كان واخد اوض بليز تعملوا تشيك اوت ناو وتدوا المفاتيح لميراي. وهنرجع تاني هنا 1:15. ثانك يو. أنبا رفائيل
15 ايه يا راجل؟